有人说，动荡和离别是种不幸，怕的是巅峰不能复制。
要我说，领袖还在，队伍的精神就在。
有人说，老兵不死，但他的油箱里又剩多少燃料呢？
要我说，不必多虑，把每一场比赛都当作最后一场。
有人说，这是积累经验的舞台，年轻并不惧怕失败。
要我说，何必用年轻安慰自己？何不直接一鸣惊人？
有人说，行不通的就马上放弃，何苦消磨辉煌的过去呢？
要我说，没有成长的耐心，怎么等得来奇迹？
有人说，王权易主了，金色的时代已经过去。
要我说，即使兴亡来势汹汹，传奇还将继续。
有人说，昙花一现只是惊喜，再励志的故事也会被遗忘。
要我说，那就一路笑到最后，做个真正的赢家。
有人说，翻过最高的山后，他们肯定会失去方向。
要我说，以后有人评价我时，我不想听到出道即巅峰。
有人说，天赋注定大有努力，他们的强大只是幻象。
要我说，正确的伟人走到一起，就会化身赴死的凤凰。
要我说，
我们季后赛见。
A new day dawns on the LPL, and our top teams continue to duke it out to establish who will reign supreme. Yesterday, we saw JDG take a surprise 3-1 victory against WE, securing them a spot in the quarterfinals. In today's matchup, pits our newest team against one of our oldest to secure their spot in the quarterfinals, SDG and EDG here in the Hangzhou Arena.
Yeah, it's going to be real fun to watch, SinoDragons come into their first playoff run. Remember, just the new promoted team from the LPL, to be able to see them come so far, so confident as rookies, is going to be fun.
We were really impressed with them, and especially recently, taking down RNG, that was a bit of a nice surprise and locked them in playoffs. I'm sure it was not as nice a surprise for BLG, but for SinoDragons, it was a very happy time for them. Now, we're going to have EDG coming out here, the full squad lineup. You'll note in that jungler position, we're going to be seeing Haro here. So you're going to have iBoy, Meiko, Scout, Haro, of course, and rounding out the top lane, Ray, one of their most prominent carries this split.
Haro coming in is going to be a surprise for a lot of people. For a lot of the international fans coming in, they would expect Haro to be starting naturally. I mean, he was the carry-type player who'd been coming up with such strong performances, at the world's stage. But in the regular season for the 2019 spring split, he's actually been having some issues, and Clearlove coming in came out much stronger, provided a lot of clear leadership for the squad, so you start seeing Scout and Ray play a lot more conservatively and coming out with stronger leads. So I'm currently loving how Clearlove's slotting into the lineup. But it's game one going up against SinoDragons. It's also just nice to see the jungle slot being used in a team in a best-of-5.
Haro gets to come back despite his lesser games, and he's going to be up against SinoDragons, of course, GALA, Twila, Xiaopeng, Mark, and, of course, Changhong there in the top lane. Our rookies coming through the LDL into the LPL. This is our youngest squad here this split.
Yeah, this is great from already just seeing Xiaopeng with so much enthusiasm. So a lot of new viewers coming in. Of course, they're expecting either Suning coming into the playoffs, BLG coming into the playoffs. Like a lot of teams with just so much infrastructure to back them up with such strong coaching staffs and just a lot of the, players that you've seen before in the past going into such larger stage. But you're getting to see real team play. That's what SinoDragons come in with. You don't know their coaching staff, like Coach Bai, not a lot of people know who that is. Coach Saru, former MVP coach, so coming in from the LCK, that is a nice addition for them to have. But then if you're just looking towards the players themselves, I know you said the names for them, but even if you're saying like GALA, who's GALA? GALA the AD carry, right? Mark the support, the mid laner of Twila. These are all players that if you watch the LDL, you know them very well, but a lot of people still are really being able to grasp these names, and I think this best-of-5 experience will do them well in exposure to the rest of the world.
We're going to get to see them in just a little bit. But first, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Matt Niberic and Daniel, joined here by Barento Raz Muhammad. And let's take a look. Yesterday we mentioned JDG versus WE Series. Let's see what the playoff bracket looks like now as a result of that.
Yeah, hearts broken from the analysts. Like, the fact that we all had this discussion and we said that WE would be coming in with their 6 series winning streak. They were doing so well. And the fact that they won through their bottom lane. Imp and Lu Mao just ran roughshot on Missing and Mystic, who had such a strong regular season performance. It just already goes to show that we're starting the playoffs with so much uncertainty.
Basically unheard of them trying that strategy. But today, of course, we have SinoDragons coming in here from the LDL, our stars, the undefeated run. Coming in now, barely scraped into playoffs, but they have a lot to prove here today. They're going to be doing it against EDG.
A lot of the discussion around the bottom 4 teams from, 6th place to 8th place, just that kind of slot where it was who was going to get into the playoffs, right, and what seed they were going to be coming into. SinoDragons coming in with the strongest seeding was a surprise to a lot of people, but that's because they were able to take surprise performances up against RNG, who had already mentioned, TOP, another one as well. They can come up and surprise the best of them. That's why we can't just come into this day and say that EDG are going to have run roughshot, because you really don't know based off the strong performance they've been having as a squad.
Yeah, but EDG, though, have been looking really good in this latter half of the split. I mean, especially off the backs of their carry performances, they've been looking fantastic. They've had good drafting as well, thanks to Coach Hart. Even pulling out that Zed-Karthus combo that nobody saw coming was really fun to watch. But a lot of this is through Ray, their top laner, who's been having an absolutely fantastic split.
If you're playing this well, then drafting is so much easier, right? When you are literally able to get 17 solo kills throughout the split, and we're talking about second highest. The fact that he's able to come out so strong individually, I had questions starting out the split, because a lot of the international audiences would be asking questions of, well, how is Race playing so well? I remember his international performances, and he was on tank duty, but he's coming up in carry performances, able to run roughshot on likes of 369 when they went up against TOP. And for people that don't know, 369 has been that, strong rookie in the top lane, and Ray just put him down. And then going into this play, this is Ray essentially having such strong IQ on the play.
Yeah, just look at him coming in from the top side here and wait for him to get the plays down. Takes out XX first and watch for the chase in this team fight.
The wards that EDG place always come back to bite the enemy team, because this was a flank coming through. At this time, TOP had no way out. And so getting to see plays like these, where Ray can really flex, it's more of a testament towards EDG as a whole, that they're able to place these vision wards so they can actually have these set plays, but more so the fact that the individual performance of Scout, iBoy, and as well Ray, who can just come out consistently as carries, Akali, Vladimir, a little bit of Rise as well. Hart must be having such a damn good day. The fact that he can come in today and really can draft whatever he wants because the team is playing so well in that type rope gameplay.
Because it's such a massive improvement from last year, right? Because this time we get to see Ray have these carry performances. Not only that, but now EDG, we can say without a doubt pretty much, they have threat in all 3 lanes. They have iBoy in the bottom lane, they have Ray in the top lane, mid lane they have Scout. All 3 of these positions have been able to carry for them.
Yeah, and so if we're just going straight into what EDG does best, it's nowhere near different than what they did in the past, because in the past it was more so try and create space for iBoy. And it's very similar. It's more so it's off the carries. So Scout and Ray being able to push members back, create diversions, and then you see so many resources on the enemy side being used, flashes for instance, and allows iBoy to come in and be able to get essentially the final stamp on these team fights. So the primary focus, as you can look in the stats, damage percentage, damage per minute's highest across the league. So a lot of the viewers coming in, they're thinking, oh, Uzi, who's been having wonderful laning phase point, or even like perhaps his team fights because they've been seeing his recent team fights. But if you've been seeing those recent team fights, he's actually been falling flat. And so if you're saying, Mystic who fell yesterday, or you're looking towards Uzi's coming up tomorrow, iBoys have been actually so impactful not only towards EDG's playstyle, but across the board on all the AD carries. I think he's been the strongest.
But we can't count out SinoDragons because, yes, they are a newer team here in the LPL, and they've had a weaker start than we would expect from them. But they did make it into the playoffs off their undefeated run in the LDL, and they have a very distinct style. They're going to play front-to-back team fightings. They're going to draft Sion 99% of the time. Changhong has played it 15 times so far in the LPL regular split, and they're just going to wait for their AD carry GALA to carry.
Yeah, that's waiting is the big portion of it, because if you're seeing their recent team fights, the team fights are really long, drawn out. They're more like opportunists, really, because you say front to back, that's how ideally they would like to play it. But if they get fights like these, where they can draw the attention of the frontliners to the right side of it, here comes Twila as well. Take a look at the left side, where Uzi is actually put off in a really tough position, and you can see GALA kind of just get in there and strike. Because GALA, more consistently, he's on the Kai'Sa as of late. So if he's being able to pick up Kai'Sa this consistently, and he's able to really gauge out how these team fights end up faring, and much like you already said, if it's front to back, then fine. Like 3-item Kai'Sa is going to be fine going front to back. Or if you're seeing a lot of these messy team fights, then of course he can be able to pick up the scraps in the end of it. So I'm really liking how he's been able to perform as of late.
But we got to talk about how they match up, of course, and let's take a look at the casters' predictions. Hysterics and Clement putting the two already in EDG's corner, and myself, I gotta agree with them. EDG have such a massive history of success. They've never missed a playoffs. They've done so well on the regular split, so I'm going to go for them.
Yeah, I'm just going to have to go out and say EDG. Like, everyone coming into this one is saying EDG. For me, it seems like they're the second strongest team in the league right now in terms of just recency, because they were close to taking down IG. We already saw the lineup here. Changhong in the top lane, Xiaopeng in the jungle, Twila in the mid lane, and for the bottom side of the map, it's GALA and Mark.
Yeah, and of course they are going to have to go against that second best team in the league currently in Invictus Gaming, with Ray in the top lane, Haro in the jungle today starting out, Scout mid lane, and iBoy and Meiko rounding out the bottom lane.
So you say IG, because EDG, when they went up against them, it was just one auto off, right? That was like what I had been thinking about coming into this series. EDG was so close to being able to pick that one up, and then if we're looking even past that, when they went up against FPX, it was once again so close to being able to take that win up against that squad. Right now, EDG have just been ramping up since week 5, and so while they have lost a lot of games that were certainly winnable, and they find themselves, below SinoDragons in current standings, they're coming into this one in terms of just recent strength. I think Hart has done a lot of good for them.
And it's actually impressive to see them follow along the path that Haro actually mentioned in an interview. He said that EDG as a team needs that ramp-up period. They need that time to come up.
Right now what you're seeing here is Xiaopeng. Now, Xiaopeng coming into this one, he's a carry jungler. He's always been known for his Kindred, Nocturne, Rek'Sai has been another one. And of course, if we're just talking about like throughout the LPL, Nidalee and Lee Sin. Lee Sin's going to be my biggest takeaway from his current performance, because if we're just talking about what he finds most comfort in, is being able to lock in the Lee Sin and being as flexible as he can for team fights. If it comes down to protecting GALA, then of course he uses ultimate to be able to get them back. And if it comes to being able to create plays, his Lee Sin ward-hop kicks are great. Now, that being said, this is why it's fun talking about the jungle changes, because I actually favor Clearlove coming into the series, but bringing out Haro in this specific matchup I think is smart, because Haro is the Lee Sin player. Like, he has no quarrels about picking the champion up. I think when we saw him at his best, he was in internationals and worlds, being able to get those ward-hop kicks, being as aggressive as he can in your face. So I think knowing that SinoDragons are coming into this series with side selection means that EDG on red side can end up picking up the Lee Sin on their first round.
Yeah, we're going to see iBoy. Of course, we mentioned him before. Now, these are his post 9.4 stats, and he's still got that #1 DPM and 31.8 damage percent.
I think the Kog'Maw is something we should be looking towards. I know when we're looking at the champion pool, it's fun to just look at every single possibility he can pick up. And solo queue, he's been locking it in quite frequently, and in his recent games, Kog'Maw has been the pick, as you saw in the recent replays. So I'm looking at this series and saying EDG are once again trying to play a more front-to-back style. Something that I love about Kog'Maw is that he has great range in the lane, so it's not like you're giving up the laning phase a lot of the time. If you're going up against GALA and he's picking up the Kai'Sa, or maybe perhaps looking towards the Kalista, then locking in the Kog'Maw to be able to look and take a slow ramping advantage throughout the laning phase is something that's in the EDG's best interest.
This draft is going to be one of the most important phases of the game here for this series, because SinoDragons we've seen execute on one type of composition. We've said it time and time again, it's the front to back, but specifically there are two picks that they do better with than any other, and that is in the top lane, the Scion for Changhong, and in the AD carry position, we mentioned it already, Kai'Sa for GALA.
And I know people have thrown out the idea of just like banning out the Scion. I never liked the idea of banning Scion, especially when you have Ray in the top lane who can pick up the Vladimir. You're already seeing the champions on your screen, damn it. Like, look, all of those and including the Kennen are wonderful picks there. And if we're talking about a free scaling pick, then Kale is also excellent. You should never ban Sion if you have this much faith in your top laner going up against the matchup.
Yeah, Ray has the performances to go up against Changhong, and that's something interesting to bring up in this matchup is the laning performances relative to each other.
Yes, lanes are important. I know a lot of people have a lot of faith in SinoDragons currently. I have some faith in terms of their recent, I'd say their consistency. Being able to go across the split and play out the same way. The Sion is one, the GALA's carry pool, and on top of that, just being able to pull as much resources into GALA as possible. Twila has been, for me, a real surprising factor, and if I'm talking about the keys to SinoDragon's success in this series, is being able to have Twila get that success. His Corki was his best pick when he went up against RNG in particular. And then if we're talking about his champion pool, they're not even showing half of the fact that he is an Aurelion Sol, Zillion type of player means that there is a certain level of uncertainty when it comes to drafting up against him. So SinoDragons are favoring blue side, but I think Twila really benefits being on red side, being able to hide his pick. Now that we know that EDG are going to be able to get red side, since SinoDragons have that choice of side select, I would expect Scout to be holding onto his pick a little bit more frequently. There might be a situation where SinoDragons give away Lissandra so they can get the Corki, and I think that's going to be a possibility. You already talked about draft being that important, and I think that's all the thoughts coming through Coach Bai and Coach Hart's heads.
Well, let's take a look at that side selection again, because SinoDragons take blue side, which means, generally speaking, you're going to want that first pick. That first pick matters so much to them. Do you think that's their priority? What do you want them to pick up here as the first?
I mean, Sylas is their go-to every time. If they get the chance and people will give them that opportunity, they've been on blue side quite frequently, and they've been getting their hands on Sylas. And Changhong is a great Sylas. They don't put it towards the mid lane at all, so there's not any, like, dispersions about it. I know we're always talking about it being a great flex pick, but they're not FPX who are putting it mid lane and jungle. So it's essentially going to be putting up to the top lane so they can actually get the use and shove in top lane, which means that if I'm EDG, leave the Jace open, leave the Kennen open, try and skirmish into it pretty frequently. I think they should, at least in game one, play around with that thought and give away the Sylas so they can get Changhong away from the Sion that you've been mentioning and try and focus in on the laning phase there.
One of the interesting things about the Sion for Changhong specifically is that there was actually a post-game interview from SDG, and it's my favorite thing that anyone's ever said.
Give it to me.
All right, so Xiaopeng was asked, hey, Changhong had an amazing Sion engage in Game 2. How did you guys communicate that? And they said, we didn't. We actually tried to get him to stop the engage, but he wouldn't. He said, we can take this. I have the engage. And he just went for it.
That's what you love about players with confidence, raw confidence. And this is what shocks a lot of people about a all rookie team being able to show it against the best of them. When they started out slowly, I gave them a lot of time and leeway. My expectation, if we're just talking about preseason to now, in preseason I thought that SinoDragons would last and would go to 9th place, which is actually just outside of the playoff prospect because I thought experience would trump all, but they surprised everybody. That, especially for Changhong, if he believes in the fight, damn it, he's going to pick it up.
Well, it's interesting. We already see SinoDragons. We talked about the Sylas for Changhong, but actually SinoDragons are the one to ban it out.
Yeah, that's a surprising one. I think there are a few surprises here. Lee Sin's another ban that EDG doesn't want to see in SinoDragons. So the whole point about banning the Sylas means they don't want to be, giving it away to Scout or Ray, knowing that the Jace is always an opportunity and it's still up. So there are great laning phase counters to it, and I think SinoDragons have recognized that.
SinoDragons have secured for themselves the Galio, of course. We've seen Mark on this most often. 11 games, 81.8% win rate. Absolutely insane play from him on that pick. So I like seeing SinoDragons secure something safe that we know Mark can perform incredibly well on.
Yeah, strong playmaking. This is what I love about Mark, and I hope that he's able to bring this in pressure situations where he can always find himself around these Baron fights, being able to be in Fog of War because he's played some great control wards. A lot of things that we got to see from PYL in the past, 2015, 2016, we're seeing in Mark right now. So it says a lot. It means that he understands how to start a fight, when it needs to be done, and I think that Mark right now is showcasing that for all of us.
EDG with their red size first rotation have picked up Jarvan and Braum there in the bottom lane. A lot of playmaking potential there from those two.
So Braum is a big telltale. Like, if you're picking up the Braum, then it's very likely you're going towards the Kog'Maw. That's been the go-to lanes for a lot of teams. So for SinoDragons, I think picking into it is incredibly important. I'm surprised they're picking up the Lissandra now, because what I would expect more so is to get either pick the Kog'Maw away from them or go towards the Xayah that GALA has been playing pretty frequently in solo queue as of now. So we'll have to see if they get the opportunity.
Looks like instead they might want to put some priority there onto Xiaopeng. We know how impactful he has been, but they're going to decide exactly where they want their pick ban pressure to go, so it doesn't look like they're going to be taking away anything from the AD carry position here in the picks.
But really good focus in just their mid jungle and how quickly they can clear. The camps right now, Olaf is wonderful in being able to pick up skirmishes versus Jarvan, so he's not going to be concerned about that. And the free push that Lissandra is going to have, so SinoDragons are focusing around pushing through mid and hopefully making a play around the bottom side of the map. I think this is great. Remember, EDG right now are #1 in terms of dragon percentage. So for a team that's focused so much on the bottom side of the map and being able to pick up dragons, this is going to hamper that a lot.
Now, EDG's final pick was the Corki in the mid lane for Scout, so Twila will not be the one getting it this game. Of course, he already has the Lissandra as well. And EDG are banning away the Gangplank.
Almost, certain you're going to get a double AD carry from EDG, meaning that Corki, AD carry that iBoy is going to pick up for himself with a Braum. That's great, 3-man skirmish you can have around the bottom side of the map. So I love this. It'll take some time for Corki to really get to his Trinity Force, but Scout's been actually on point in his early game farming. So that's something that EDG are going to have to work around. And I think they need a very strong bottom lane. What they cannot have is a lane in the mid lane that gets pushed in, and the bottom lane that also gets the same situation. So Braum needs to get paired up with a strong AD.
Do you think Kog'Maw, as a result of that, is still on the field? Do you consider him strong enough to be worth picking for EDG?
Yeah, still has the range up against all the possibilities SinoDragons can go. The only thing that I would say is if it's Kog'Maw to Sivir, Sivir can actually, even though she also suffers in the same issue, she can just focus on the wave clear. So if SinoDragons are just going pure wave clear, trying to get priority in both mid lane and bottom lane, there's not much you can do about that. So I want to see what AD carry GALA goes towards.
Now, EDG have their choice of picks. A lot of focus in the bans in this second phase around that top lane. We only saw one AD carry ban from SinoDragons. The rest were all focused around Ray and Changhong.
The Vladimir ban makes a lot of sense. Ray has just been immaculate with the pick. When he's on solo and side pushing, that's one thing. When he's looked towards team fights, it's another. We've already seen multiple replays where it's been strong, but he's not going to be able to get it. He's going to get the Kale pick. I think, once again, for SinoDragons, they can go towards a fairly tanky top lane pick because they're leaving that bait out there. You can go towards another Scion pick, but you know you're going up against a Kale that will push you in and easily get towards your scaling item. So I love what EDG are doing. They're challenging SinoDragons in the draft in Game 1.
Preemptively picking that Kale. It's going to look good, hopefully, for them. But that is if Changhong goes for the tankier member, and it looks like instead it's going to be the Cassiopeia.
I love this. This is going to be very likely a Cassiopeia in the mid lane. I've always thought that Twila's best champion has been the Cassiopeia, but coming into the split, he hadn't gotten the chance to play it. Remember, Cassiopeia was seen as OP by everybody, the strongest champion in the meta, and so he just got banned against him every game. This time he gets his hands on it, and that means that SinoDragons, if they get their hands around the bottom side of the map, around these neutral objectives, Dragons, Baron, anything, then it's so hard to deal with them front to back. We'll have to see where that Cassiopeia lands, but as it stands right now, I think it's a good pick into the double AD carry comp EDG has.
Lissandra on the field as well, and the final pickup for EDG was that Lucian, so they're going to secure that strong bottom lane you said they were looking for. And now the Galio and Kai'Sa bottom lane for SinoDragons as well. They're very experienced on this one, and so far might be Changhong sitting there on the top, Cass.
The weakest point for a Kale is dealing with anyone that overly skirmishes in the top side of the map. So Jace was a concern that we had. Kennen is another major concern to her Kale. So very clearly, Cassiopeia is going to be another problem for her. So it's going to be fun finally seeing a Cassiopeia in the top lane here in the LPL. Funny enough, just this morning, I was, much like Caps' dream, I suppose. I would kind of look through all social media and stuff, and I saw a fun Huni meme on Twitter. It was just mostly about him saying that, yeah, he just wants to play Cassiopeia top lane. Doesn't all top laners want to, so he finally gets the matchup for himself. Changhong have shown to me he's a very flexible top laner. And when he plays tanks, it's not because he's incapable of playing carries, because we've seen that in Demacia Cup earlier on in the split when he's playing Akali in the top lane, but he's a role player, and his strongest suit is being able to engage. So the fact that they put him on Cassiopeia duty is interesting to me. It means that a lot of what they put into these practice and scrims means that they can play a different style, a more risk-aware style, and I want to see if they can play around that pretty consistently. It feels snowballing to me. If they can't get mid lane and top lane rolling early on with the strong laning phase that they have, and if Xiaopeng can't take advantage of Haro's early clear, then in terms of just outright scaling, like what the hell, EDG just has trumps over them.
Almost triple AD carry for EDG. If they don't get shut down in the early game by the newest team in the LPL, they should be looking to take it in game 1 of SinoDragons versus EDG.
That was actually a ward cleared there from Twila, which means he should be able to get to level 2 a little faster. It is relevant, but oh my god.
Uh-oh. This is not the level 1 you want if you're Haro. He might have to burn the flash. Over to Undertow, gonna force the flash away. Haro now flashless, half health under the mid lane tower.
Yeah, smart from him to be able to flash right there. I think he can stay on the map a little longer since he flashed a little earlier, so. Wow, I mean, that was just smart from SinoDragons, level 1 going through topside, and they're actually just going to split the map. That was my concern coming into this draft, was that Cassiopeia's major weakness is, while she is great at skirmishing, man is she vulnerable. She reminds me of a lot of just like, I would say Jace, because Jace has an ability to escape from the lane just from his E. But the issue from Cassiopeia is that she can push very naturally if she's trading through the wave with her Q. Twin Fangs is wonderful, sure, but if she ever gets ganked, that's instantly just an issue. So that just means that Xiaopeng's trying to confirm for certain that Changhong is going to be free with Jarvan starting bot side.
That was a lot of damage in that mid lane trade onto Scout as well. Twila just getting the better of this early game by far. He forced the cleanse out as well.
Yeah, I mean, overall, Corki has corrupting potions, so it's not going to be that bad, but it's going to be hard for Haro. So we'll have to see what Haro ends up doing early on when he lost flash early, and bottom lane's also, at least he can work with bottom lane, but he's not going to be able to dive this. I know he's pivoting for it, but please don't.
Definitely don't want to see the level 2 dive coming in here from Haro, but he will have access to the Krugs, highest experience, highest gold camp, so it'll give him the opportunity to farm up a little bit. Like you said, both junglers splitting the map. We see Xiaopeng on the top side of it. Mark's going to run a little bit of interference here towards the Krugs and take away a little one.
They just didn't have the extra ward early on to be able to see him doing it, because if you're on red side going for that, oh, actually, we're just going to see a dive right now.
I don't know about this dive, but SDG are confident. The first blood there for Xiaopeng forces away the flash, but that's an early shutdown of the Kaele's lane. Now mid lane under threat. Twila getting pushed around. Haro looking for the gank, finds the flag and drag, but won't get the knockup from it. Aftershock's been popped. The flash from Scout. Twila gets taken down, and Scout gets revenge with his first kill.
Great response from Haro. Really needed to be able to cut through mid there. If it wasn't successful, then of course the teleport coming through from Ray would have just gotten dove again. But you got to see Haro coming through mid, which means he secures the kill, helps out Scout, and he's in position for a possible dive top side of the map. So that was certainly needed for the team.
Engage here coming in from Mark. We'll be able to get a little bit of poke damage down onto Meiko. Ignite's been burned, as has the heal from SinoDragons. Now iBoy out of mana. Both sides are going to back off.
Yeah, it's going to be fine there. The Summoners being there for EDG, once again, their bottom lane is going to be just fine. Ordinarily, when it comes to playoff times, EDG, they put so much focus in the bottom lane shove, and they try their hardest to get chip damage on tower. In the past, it's fine, because chip damage on tower, I mean, it's just a ticking time bomb, but now it just means legitimate gold. SinoDragons have to either rush the top side, as they've been doing early on in this game, or try to counteract that with a bottom lane gank. And I think that that's something that Xiaopeng has done in the past. I would expect the Galio to see some use out of his taunt.
Twila's looking for the roam. He has been pinged out, but I don't believe was seen on vision. Will be spotted here by this lane ward and will be forced back towards mid lane. So an unsuccessful roam from the mid laner of SinoDragons. Haro is here, potentially looking to contest down in the bottom lane.
Oh, didn't get an eye on him, so they saw Lissandra coming bot, but that's going to trick them into thinking they have some security here.
Haro still looking for it out from the side. GALA stepping a little bit too far forward, but will make it out. Use of the E in time. Mark, real aggressive with that shield of Durand, but won't flash for it, won't go that aggressive.
Yeah, you already saw iBoy losing a lot of HP. Now you just know that iBoy and GALA need to back, right? GALA had the push there, so he's going to find a good time to base, and iBoy is going to stay a little longer so he can find a good time for his own. So that's going to be nice for both bottom laners. It was just really risky to see Twila coming down, providing the vision and saying, you guys are fine, nothing's here, I'm going to go back in the mid lane. And that gank almost worked for Haro.
Now Xiaopeng going to be spotted out. So EDG getting the better of these bottom lane ganks by far at this point. But the top lane is an entirely different story. Changhong is just abusing Ray in this lane. Like you said, those skirmishes are doing so much.
It's instilled a lot of confidence in the top side, specifically from Xiaopeng. If you see what he's building right now, double longsword means that he's going warriors on the Olaf. So he already got the first kill early on. I expect him to try and spiral that as much as he can in the top side of the map. So this is going to be a fast one from SinoDragons. You usually see them trying to prolong it. It's not so much about the early laning phase, unless if Twila is on an early roaming champion. He's on the Lissandra, so it seems like that's the face they're going to be showing.
Yeah, Twila has just been on a tear down towards this bottom lane. And now SinoDragons having a real happy early game because they just picked up the Infernal. And that next one, Raz, I know you know what it is. That's another Infernal.
Yeah, they can definitely continue to play this one out. So we'll have to see if Haro tries to do anything. He needs to start, trying to diverge attention right now. Okay, Changhong's going to feel it.
Oh, dear God. Changhong was about to get hit with the 3-man gank, but the flash away from Haro will keep him safe for the time being.
So double Infernal is going to be really poor for EDG because their entire composition is fine if they can get to their Trinity Force spikes. Like, not only is mid lane like Corki trying to get to his Triforce, the same is going to be happening for Kale, and even then she wants to be able to get to level 11, level 16 to be able to join fights as confident as possible. That just means EDG has to start picking out ganks pretty early on, mess with the timing of SinoDragons as next dragon's coming up, so they can either sneak it away or really just play to the mid lane and bottom lane wave. So SinoDragons have to play reactively to push on bottom lane wave or mid lane wave, and rather than having to have that freedom to go towards the dragon buff. So I think EDG has to be a little bit more creative now.
I gotta say, it's really fun for me getting to see SinoDragons try this newer style. Like we said, they don't tend to focus as much towards the early game, much preferring to go towards late when GALA can get ahead. Changhong can play that tanky top laner, but this is a complete departure from that. And so far, they seem to be doing pretty well in the early game with it.
The thing is, it's more of a focus on the laning phase rather than them diverging away from scaling, because Cassiopeia, Lissandra, and the Kai'Sa are all wonderful scaling champions. It's more so the Olaf that's going to find real issues, and the lack of range that they're going to have an issue with EDG, but it seems like Twila keeping tabs right now on Ray. With this consistent pressure in lanes, that's going to be something that EDG have to recognize, and I don't think they have a real way to deal with it. They lack hardcore engage if we're just looking at champions not named Jarvan. Like the Braum is something but maybe you'd say Flash Ultimate is his way to get into a fight. SinoDragons have a lot of ways here.
There's the route there onto Scout, but Xiaopeng not going to join this engage. Instead, looking for the pick onto Haro. That's a lot of damage forced down. Frozen Tomb, goodbye Haro. Twila getting taken a little bit low on the back end, but will not die. And now SDG get a pick on the jungler of EDG.
Yeah, I mean, questioning pathing though. What was he coming through from that side for the mid lane? He needed to go the long way around. Scout was safe, yeah, double summoners up, and he was in a pretty good position unless if Twila flashed himself. So that was more so Haro just not really recognizing his position at that time.
Now, we've heard that Kale has a weak early game, Raz. We've heard this a few times before, but down a 40 CS deficit, no matter how hard she scales, that's going to be pretty tough to come back from.
I mean, we saw those dives. Those dives are really crucial. It took some time for her to be safe enough to teleport right back to the top lane, but that was 2 waves crashing in her turret. So, that has real problems. Not only are you in a poor matchup, but on top of that, the dives coming through just based on the vertically jungling. So now you can already see 2v2 in the top lane.
Going to be disengaged here. SinoDragons don't want to chase for it because EDG have the much higher health bars here. So Changhong's still going to play a little bit defensive, and Ray will get just a little bit more CS, but still below half of that of Changhong.
And just remember, for Haro's perspective, he's not coming in to aid in a gank at all. They didn't want to kill on the Changhong no matter how low he was in HP. Simply put, Haro didn't have flash, and Ray didn't have the battle power to take that fight. Xiaopeng is just so strong right now in the early portion of the game, so you want to do as much as possible to actually get good back timings for Ray here. So that's important. He's trying his hardest, but here we go. Finally, EDG's bottom side of the map is starting to pay off.
I was going to say, there's two things that are going very well for EDG here in the early game. It's their bottom lane and a lot of their ward coverage. Every time SDG have gone for a roam, they've been spotted away. Whether it's Xiaopeng or Twila, the wards from EDG have been keeping their laners safe-ish.
And you can strengthen that. Remember, Scout right now having package for himself, picking that up for him means that he gets pushed in mid lane. Now Haro can actually find timing around the bottom side of the map, empowered to use his red trinket, allow Meiko to get some control wards. So you would think it defensive, but more comfortable for him to find lane gank opportunities. So now we're starting to see EDG put themselves in a position to help out the bottom lane. Oh, but this is smart. Now trying to help out Kale, who's been receiving a lot of pressure. They may be here on time to stop Twila.
It's going to be a really scary timing here for EDG, but it's going to be a happy one for SDG. The ultimate goes down from the Kale, but won't be enough as Changhong takes him down, and EDG's bot lane rotate up just in time to see their top laner dead.
If he had flash, then I mean he did. If he had used flash, that actually would have been enough time for his dual lane to come and help him out. So it's saddening that Ray just died under tower for nothing there. I think the timing from EDG was strong. They even got the top lane pushed with that rotation there. They're giving up Infernal Dragon, but with how the game has been going, they kind of just said that that was going to be the case. So overall, EDG getting pressured in top lane is an issue that they're going to have to deal with.
Now looks like they may be able to pick up. Oh, don't go for the full fight. Changhong flashes in with the ult. GALA to follow up. The team fight from SDG is going great so far, but Haro gets the first kill of the fight onto Changhong. It's a lot of DPS missing, and Mark is not able to get the ultimate off. So now it looks like Shelly will be contested once more. EDG on the better half of it, but 2,000 health. Where's he going to go? Twila looking for the escape out. Will find it, but resets the Herald. And EDG have all 5 members up top and still haven't killed the Herald.
Like, if you're just looking at SinoDragon's composition across the board, where's the burst going to be coming from, right? They didn't have the Olaf. He was into the bottom side of the map securing just a trade and objectives. That's fine. If SinoDragons are trying to stall EDG, great. But what that was, if you look at it, that's an all-in fight without real follow-up damage to really punish iBoy. So he comes out half HP, easy skirmish to be able to pick up the 2 kills.
And iBoy's damage wasn't even needed for most of that skirmish because Scout was left entirely untouched that entire time. He still had cleansed the flash. So lots of damage there for EDG, not so much for SinoDragons, but they did stop the Rift Herald take, which means despite losing 3 kills, they'll be able to secure the Infernal Drake without contest.
Yeah, so ultimately it feels like nitpicking because ultimately their goal was to stall out the Rift Herald, even though it was more so Changhong thinking he got an excellent opportunity, and technically he did. Like, that was a great ultimate that he was able to stun members down, but that's a lot of cleanse on the opposing side. Right now, Scout's holding on to his current cleanse, so those plays that you're looking for, either Twila or Changhong thinking that they can utilize the full duration of the stun to be able to nail him down and get a pick, that's not going to be possible, and I think they've recognized that now.
Now SinoDragons have matched the bottom lane switch to top. So Haro's still going to be looking for this Rift Herald, but will have a little bit harder of a time getting the man advantage because it should be a 4 versus 4 here on the top side of the map.
But here's the issue. With all this being done, like, EDG are pressured to try for a play. They need to be able to get Ray out from the bottom side of the map because this is just a damaging like CS advantage that's really hitting them. And it's really accounting to the tower that we're not seeing, just being chipped at. So Changhong going into this one was smart with the pick and ban. He was able to get the direct lane matchup he wanted, and it's really starting to pay off for him.
Now SinoDragons will keep vision around the Herald, prevent Haro for going for it, give themselves a little bit of pressure. It is 14 minutes, so the turret platings have fallen now as well.
They should rush for it, not only because EDG doesn't have the vision, but also Changhong is holding up the mid lane. They have the ability to look for the fight in a numbers advantage, so there's no way EDG can actually successfully pick this fight up.
Now that you said that, Changhong is walking towards the bottom side of the map, so SinoDragons don't feel as confident still going for this Herald, and it stayed on the map as a point of contention for so long at this point.
I'm not a fan of Changhong rotating back to the bottom lane. You only picked up the 2 minions there, and if you're thinking about giving away the bottom lane tower for a certain skirmish around Rift Herald and you being able to utilize that mid lane, that's a lot. Ray would not be able to counteract that either, and it's going to be a good play from EDG picking up this tower.
EDG will get it. It's the first tower of the game, so they're going to get a little bit of gold back in their pocket, but GALA will get the solo tower gold in the top lane as well. So the gold lead for SinoDragons, just 1.3k, but if you look at the objectives, they seem to be doing quite significantly better.
I mean, you're right. Like, everything should be and is going in favor of SinoDragons in terms of, like, what the gold that they've been having for themselves. The gold lead is technically there. It's rather small, and it's only small because EDG are recognizing that across the board, like, they're trying to get to their Triforces that right now Kale is struggling to get to that point. They're trying to hold SinoDragons back, so they're just trading objectives across the map, which is positive. Like, not only has Scout picked up that Triforce, but now he's going to be able to have that mid lane push. He's put himself on top lane. They're already getting the 1-3-1 in order, so EDG are trying to buy for time, and I think it's fairly successful. I say fairly because, like, the map is not letting them go. Like, Mountain Dragon is going to be coming up, so it's going to be EDG that's pulled out of their current positions to try and stop SinoDragons from picking it up.
So unfortunate. Luck for them. That is the worst RNG you could land on, except maybe Triple Infernal. But now 35 seconds until the Mountain Drake is up. Scout has the package available, so it can make quite the explosive entrance into a team fight. But Ray, like you said, still doesn't have that Trinity Force, down 2k gold to his lane opponent, and is sitting on basically a Sheen.
Yeah, I mean, like, the fact that he went back to base and just picked up a Phage, like, that's it. That's all he's got. He's living off poverty right now. So, like, it means a lot for Changhong, like how he's rotating pretty frequently. So he's not even focusing so much on, like, abusing the lane matchup, and he still has that CS lead. He's rotating to help his team, so even though the Rift Herald is still a struggle, he's providing opportunities for SinoDragons. So if one thing's for certain, they're confident, they're on the map, and they're going for another play.
There's the Undertow to get the slow, forces away the flash from Meiko. And it will be the end of that engage, but it's a flash burn for just the ultimate from Twila.
But that's a confident call there from SinoDragons. Not only were they able to get the summoner, but on top of that, Mark doesn't follow up. He says, okay, we're in great positioning for the Dragon now. EDG has to come to us.
Now the Dragon will begin, 4,000 health remaining, and SinoDragons not feeling quite confident enough to keep it going. They know that Kale is waiting in the wings to flank. And Scout just poking out as much as he can, but only 2 charges left on the Missile Barrage. 1,500 on the Dragon. It's secured by SinoDragons, but will a fight break out? That's the question, as Changhong chases down onto Ray. The calling comes out from iBoy, so now SinoDragons have to make the call, and the call is to flash over the wall from Changhong to safety.
But they got the Dragon, and they got out in safety, so EDG didn't pick up anything except for perhaps, like, position on mid lane. And SinoDragons are immediately going to counter it out with the bottom lane push that they have.
Still haven't taken the Rift Herald, but 3 Dragons in a row was a pretty good look at only 17 minutes in the game. So SinoDragons should have a ton of pressure here, but the wave clear from EDG looks to be too much for them to handle.
These are spam pings coming in from EDG. They have a lot of time for the Rift Herald that's still up and available. They still, like, just recognizing what SinoDragon want to do right now. They want to find a good base timing. So EDG, in the time that they do have, I think they could have went towards Rift Herald and picked that one up. They would have to stay on the map, though. That's the only concern. If they had based with that Rift Herald, then that means that SinoDragons could have looked for another play around mid lane, and that, you know, you wouldn't have timing at all to utilize that. So it just seems like EDG is trying to focus so much on side wave priority. So we'll have to see what they can get from it.
Just a minute and a half until that Rift Herald respawns, so the question is if it'll even be taken at this point, because Baron is spawning a minute and 37 seconds. So going to be a point of contention soon as well. And Changhong just pressuring out Ray consistently here in the bottom lane. Should be able to take this tower soon.
I think it would be in the best interest for SinoDragons, like, if they get the vision around Baron, to never try and focus, never all in on it unless if, let's say, Changhong is there. But right now, Changhong is doing so exceptionally in the side lane matchup. Just try and bully that. Focus around the side lane turrets as much as possible. Get mid lane shove, try and wrap around the bottom side of the map so they can get the tower, and just do that on repeat. Because then suddenly, like, EDG can't go in towards their own jungle. You can't move in towards the red buff anymore without getting picked. So many pick options from SinoDragon's end that really EDG should not be playing with much vision at all in the map.
Now Xiaopeng will finally make the decisive call to go for the Rift Herald, but this is a really strong invade here into the bottom side here from EDG, looking for anyone and anything in the jungle of SinoDragons, but they won't find it just yet, except Changhong may be the victim of a dive very soon.
But SinoDragons are in a great position to respond, so they have to get something for this. They're not going to, which means that the Rift Herald they picked up is immediately going to be used with only one member defending mid lane tower.
So take away the last outer tower, sans bot lane. There it goes. And SinoDragons have secured the outer towers in both mid and top, looking towards bot. Baron spawning in 15.
This is unfortunate for EDG, man. I mean, like right now, they're playing super slow, super far behind. And I think a lot of it, you're right, comes towards the draft, comes to RNG overall. But at the same time, defensive wards or just defensive positioning from Haro has been lacking. And one great example has been that one death that he had that happened around the mid lane. Like, looping around and getting killed in that position is unfortunate. Or also in the situation where, like, as you already saw, when the Rift Herald is being picked up and they're trying to pivot around in the red side jungle and just looping around there. There's no purpose for that, especially at this stage where Baron is going to be the primary focus. So, seems like EDG are looking, they're fishing. Thankfully, their carries are picking up the waves. Lucian and Corki are not behind, but they're not put in a great position to try and fight back and buy for time when SinoDragons start to look towards the Baron buff.
Yeah, Lucian and Corki both on those two items.
Okay, get out of there.
Oh no, get out of there, Xiaopeng. Undertow should be a good slow. Forces away the flash with the Cataclysm of Haro.
Woo!
Oh, going in with the package. I don't know about that one, Scout. There's the Frozen Tomb. Cleanse not going to be enough for Root. Hextech GLP coming in for the slow and the kill onto Scout. And now SinoDragons, this is a free team fight. GALA can go that deep because he has the safety of his whole team behind him. And EDG look to counter the engage, but Changhong's just starting a Baron.
That's a 2017 scout right there. Like, that's the scout that just dives straight in. He's like, oh, I didn't want this one. And that's going to cost EDG a lot. They can still try to defend this, but they have to play this one to the core. 101, try and poke them out, but that miasma.
That was so beautifully played by SinoDragons. The miasma, like you said, on top of that, the shield of Duran just sitting there from Mark. If anyone even tries to go in, immediately taunted, immediately turned on and killed.
Yeah, the Corki ultimate, not even possible because look at this. Literally dove straight in. Like, he recognized he would be able to take down Xiaopeng. He didn't notice Twila was going to be there. Even still had the cleanse that was going to be able to pop out. He thought at worst he would use his summoners and get out of there. But that was max damage coming out of Twila, even utilizing, of course, the Hextech GLP to be able to get the kill. Like, that was lethal damage to get in the kill on Corki, and that was just beautiful from Twila to be able to punish him.
SinoDragons just really look to be punching above their weight in this game because, you know, EDG,
yeah,
second best team in the LPL, right? You said it, can't take it back now. SinoDragons taking a really convincing game one.
It's just a good strategy from them coming into this one, and clean execution as well. Like, a lot of it that they were able to push in the top side. I think level 1 was incredibly smart. We haven't seen a smart level like 1 from SinoDragons at all from them this split. And so the fact that they're able to utilize it and get the best out of it, put Ray behind, means so much for them. And now they can still keep running Changhong on carries and trying to isolate the matchups throughout the series. Or they can try and go for a low econ, like, tank in the top lane and do the same. So Ray is in a tough position. You might see him play a tank if they can try and defend him early on in these games.
A lot of flexibility being shown here from SinoDragons, and they'll pick up their 4th dragon in a row. They're looking really, really strong. The Baron buff still 1:45 remaining, 23 minutes into the game. SinoDragon have picked up 4 dragons to none and a 3K gold lead.
The next step is going to be difficult for SinoDragons. Already just taking a look at Xiaopeng, who's going to be the one that forces that dive. It's nice to see him on that stopwatch, so it means that he can just jump in, run right into the back line, have Galio follow up. And they have a lot of summoners too. Great amount of flashes amongst their carries, so they can follow up and still come out of that alive. So for EDG, playing underneath your turret is not good enough. Take a look at Scout already receiving this much damage.
Scout half health. The Baron minion will be finally taken down there. But the turret took a bit of a beating as well, and the red buff should be able to go over to EDG if they want to contest for it. Xiaopeng will land the Q and the smite to secure it. Now Blast Plant to safety. SinoDragons back off from the mid lane tower for now. And of course, Changhong still pushing away in the bottom lane here.
There's not much you can do about that. Literally looking at EDG, you might not see the items right now because the Colonel is continuing to make his claim. It's the Guinsoo's Rage Blade that's being picked up for Ray. Actually, it's the Wit's End. That's nice. So he has Wit's End because there's just that many AP threats, also including GALA, who has that mixed damage there. It's just a nice pickup. But the reason why I was aiming towards the Guinsoo's Rage Blade is because for team fights, solely for team fights, provides the damage that you would need. On this one, he's trying to still form some bit of frontlining, because across the board from EDG, they lack that front line. Sure, you have, you know, the Jarvan and the Braum to stand up, but if you can't land a nice, let's say, flag and drag to get a CC on, you know, let's say Lissandra for an instance, like anybody on the side of SinoDragons, and if you can't get that instant pick, you get burnt. You get burnt by the Cassiopeia, Lissandra, and you get burnt by the Kai'Sa. There is actually just so much raw damage and kite back from SinoDragons that EDG is really lacking in the ability to pick a front-to-back team fight.
Meiko looking for the engage.
Here we go.
There, finds the Winter's Bite. Cataclysm onto 3. Brilliant engage there from Haro. Picks off Twila. And now the rest of SinoDragons need to get out of there. The GA has been popped from Xiaopeng, but he will be stuck alone. Cannot take down Haro. And the shutdown from Scout goes on to Twila.
A 5v3. SinoDragons just push in without the members there, without the push in the mid lane, and EDG strike in there. Like, that was a great Cataclysm to be able to put in the members. Now, take a look at this. Baron comes up in a minute 40, and that just means that EDG can find a good back timing, play straight defensive bridges around the Baron buff. They still have a shot in this game. For SinoDragons, they need to try, it's always fun to say make less mistakes, but try and play a little bit more disciplined around your waves, because if we look back at that, that was, like, they recognized that they were playing too front forward. And I think that for SinoDragons, they can come back into the wave and it's not that much of a problem. They just can't make a mistake like that again.
It's worth noting, though, that after we see this fight, there's still the Kale in the game.
So take a look at this. Like, they're pushing so in deep. A, without the members, so you can already see like Cassiopeia on the bottom side of the map. 3 members strong here. GALA was in the top lane pushing out another wave. In fact, if he had slow pushed it so you know, he could actually have his team join him in that next wave, and that's great too. But they just didn't coordinate it, so they just had 2 members out of it.
So there are 2 objectives spawning here. The Baron in 40 seconds, the Infernal, the third of the game in a minute 30. So SinoDragons could achieve that triple Infernal. My question, Raz, with Ray hitting level 11 already, still having these 2 items, he's not entirely shut down. Sure, he's short on them, but when do we have to start worrying about the Kale scaling coming back into it?
I think you can start worrying a little bit. You're saying about Kale in particular. I think once she hits either her next item, if it's going to be the Rage Blade, if it's going to be the Rapid Fire Cannon, there she can actually provide a consistent amount of damage that's, you know, in line with her team. And there's not a lot of resistances coming out of SinoDragons. Remember, having 3 carries, it's actually fairly easy to be able to get the damage onto Twila once he gets out of his stasis, his ultimate stasis in team fight, so that's not much of a concern for me. So I think that Ray will be fine in his damage off of his next item. But I think right now he provides value because of the speed boost that he gives, because of the healing that he has to Corki, where Corki is now actually moving towards his 3rd item. He's got his Rapid Fire Cannon, so he can provide like some amount of damage and poke for his squad. So right now, as long as he clears out bottom lane wave, or right now he's in top lane wave, and then rotates back mid so he can support the carries that are currently online, then he's good.
A lot of utility still coming in from that pick, even when shut down and down 60 CS.
It's rough.
It was a really, really painful early game to watch, but Ray seems to have made it out to the other side, and SinoDragons are clearing the mid lane wave. Infernal Dragon spawning in just 3 seconds, so they have the option to take that triple Infernal, but they have to pay attention to the Baron as well.
You really have to, knowing that Cassiopeia is now rotating with the team. Just like no longer on the side lane wave, so that means that EDG, well, yeah, Scout can't go bottom lane wave without it's pushing into him. You have to pay attention to this.
Twila getting the Glacial Path over the wall means he won't have it to catch any engages over the side, and they will disengage from the Baron for the time being. SinoDragons don't think they want to fight this one just yet.
Remember, that's how SinoDragons took down RNG, that same play right there. Mark finding himself in a flank position to get like a flash taunt. Now, in this kid's situation, he doesn't have flash, but he was close enough to be able to make the play happen. Really eyes open play from EDG to be able to see him on the red trinket. And now they have a chance to trade. I think they can get this, oh no, where are you going?
Oh no, I don't think they have a chance anymore, Raz, because that's the Baron rush coming in from SinoDragons. They have the Cassiopeia, they have the Kai'Sa. They can deny Haro. They should be able to take this one out fairly quickly.
They're going for it, but EDG should be here on time.
Xiaopeng's here as well.
Oh my god, someone blocked for him.
Yeah, Twila down far below half health at this point, and EDG get the Infernal Drake uncontested. Ray's rotated down into the mid lane, and SinoDragon get nothing for all this time.
This is just so smart from EDG. Like, stopping them full force. If you're SinoDragons and you're thinking, okay, we don't have to stop them going for Dragon, we can just remain here. They had such burst damage on their side. The Cassiopeia was already along it on the Baron buff alongside GALA. So, like, if you're just thinking about how much they burn it, that was pretty fast. It was just that EDG were already done Dragon by that time, and 3 members strong around the pit. SinoDragons couldn't take it, but they just keep going back for it.
I don't know about this one. It seems like their inexperience might be showing a little bit here with their indecision in the macro play at this point.
Yeah, tunnel vision. Especially if you have this many dragons underneath your belt, you're trying to make the best use out of it. But EDG are just playing so well around it, so they're getting to their scaling points. But I'm still concerned. Like, brute forcing this situation is not necessarily a bad thing. All you need is just one mistake to take advantage of.
Question is how they're going to find it at this point, because the poke from Scout seems to be too much to handle at certain points. He's able to threaten so hard with his ultimate just from massive range.
Now, you asked me a question earlier on around, items there for Ray or when he's online, when the damage can come through. He just got his rapid fire cannon right now. So right now he is happy enough to be able to join the fight, deal considerable damage towards Olaf, and I think Olaf is going to be the champion here from SinoDragons that's going to be huffing and puffing. Like, that guy, like, going towards Warriors full damage, that's great. Oh my
Changhong goes for a flash, ultimate engaged, but can't find it onto anyone. Just landing the slow, and now their top laner, one of their biggest carries at the moment, has no flash and no ultimate.
That's when your confidence dips down a bit. He made that work in the last play. He looked so sick, you're like, if there was follow-up, it'll work out. He was thinking the same damn thing. Unfortunately, didn't hit the Braum, so it's a lot of damage on the bottom lane turret. EDG are still pressed for time.
Someone's going to have to respond to that at a certain point. That is a absolutely massive wave, but it looks like the back going to be coming out from Changhong. Has teleport to get back in here.
I'm a bit surprised that they're not trying to push for it. Mark here has flash, so they can actually look for a fight. Usual Mark taunt flash on towards the back line, knowing that Ray was not going to be a part of it. It seemed like they kind of wanted to sit back knowing that Changhong didn't have flash and was diveable.
Now, he doesn't have the flash, but he does still have the teleport, so he's headed down into the bottom lane to try and keep pressure there, maybe draw away Ray, and if he's able to do that, the team fight does look stronger for SinoDragons. Their carries are sitting real pretty, especially if you look at their Kaisa. Yeah, GALA hasn't gotten any kills yet, but he's sitting on 3.5 items.
Yeah, here's the concern, though, because I've seen teams in the LPL come and go in this kind of gameplay. I remember in 2015, coming into Summer Split, everyone was singing the praises of Snake. Snake had been performing so well in the regular season, but when it came down to like the 30-40 minute gameplay around who has the macro play, what priority, what part of the map is more beneficial, they didn't prioritize towards their AD carry as much, or they didn't prioritize the discipline, pushing mid lane wave and looking for play, and they weren't the most confident, and that's the key word there. Oh, they're going for the play.
There's the taunt engage we were looking for. Ultimate onto Meiko will save his life, but that's an ultimate down now from the side of EDG. They don't seem to care for the time being, and SinoDragons just back off from the fight, and ultimate denying their engage and taking out their support.
GALA has to go back. This is actually huge here for SinoDragons. Now, the fact that, of course, Mark is down, GALA can't pick up the team fight, EDG are just going to go straight towards the Baron buff.
Xiaopeng taking so much damage. They don't have a true tank at this point in the composition. They need to find a miracle play around this Baron if they want to take it. We've seen Xiaopeng steal a Baron before. Can he do it again?
Haro's just looking for the fight, though. He's in a great position, and he has Cataclysm enabled.
Reminiscent of Lumao from yesterday's series, but doesn't have the engage this time, not going to find the angle, and now SinoDragons will at the very least pressure EDG off the Baron and have time for their support to come back.
This is real fun. It seems like the team that looks for the engage is the team that really regrets it. Not only is the Galio, the Cassiopeia, Miasma, there's just so much from SinoDragons that stops EDG, but from EDG, you already saw it from their side. There's a lot of dashes from the carries, and on top of that, the Kale is going to really support the primary carries, and for herself, of course, the healing, the movement speed, the Braum that helps there as well. You'd have to be damn confident that the fight would work out in your favor if you're going to commit to it.
Looks like EDG, knowing that full well, are going to start off this Baron. It is already at half health. Can SinoDragons respond in time to get the W into the pit? They have vision. 4,000 health remaining on the Baron. SinoDragons, can Xiaopeng find it? He steals the Baron! This man is a monster! Somebody stop him as the team fight continues to go SinoDragons' way. They pick up Haro, they pick up Meiko, and they pick up the Baron buff. SinoDragons coming away happy.
EDG wanted that 50-50. They were confident they could pick it up, but they didn't have a way to just outright burst it down. No, I guess, like, I got the multiple AD carries. They had nothing ability to support the smite as well to follow up. Man, Xiaopeng's a god on that one.
Can we just, like, remove the qualifier from that? He's been playing out of his mind this whole split. Now his second Baron steal of his career will allow his team to pick up the inhibitor and their 5th dragon of the game. Good lord, when Elder comes around, that's going to be scary.
Yeah, this is rough here for EDG. Because for them, I mean, in their mindset, the game had been stalling out to a good degree. They're getting to a point where now they were able to bite back. The picks that they had on a mark was wonderful. The pushback on GALA. They were in a great position where they could just fight. The Cataclysm was still there for Jarvan. So just taking a look at how Xiaopeng was able to get it. Oh my goodness, he beautifully used his Q, E, and then smite on top of that. So he actually had the damage if he was just basing it off of like recognizing that he was a slightly higher level. He also just had the damage with his E, so that's fine by him. Yeah, that just hurts. I think EDG should have definitely turned on that one just because they had confidence that GALA was not going to be there and Mark was already dead.
Which is such incredible play coming out from the jungler of SinoDragons. But a game where you have to stay in it by stealing away the Baron is not one that is necessarily firmly in your grasp anymore. So SinoDragons, how do they keep the pressure up?
They were confident they were able to get the pick on Ray. Dipped into the jungle, but of course he just Spidey senses with tingling. He got right out of there. Man, this is hard for EDG. The fact that right now SinoDragons being able to get another push off that Baron buff that they had there. I don't know if it's going to commit towards the dive that they're going to be looking for. If they're going to do it, they have a pretty good cannon minion wave right now. We'll have to see if EDG can try and stop that.
Haro looking for the flank once again. The Baron buff is up for SinoDragons, and they're able to poke away from the tower. A lot of damage coming out on the back of Changhong and GALA. Off one push, they got it down to about a quarter health, this top lane tower, and Haro giving up the flank as well means that EDG are going to have a tough time contesting this push.
Another good wave here, but no, yes, man, there we go. Lay it down. There's no way you fight into that.
Changhong's Cassiopeia has actually been so clean this game.
I mean, the laning phase has been good. They supported it well as in the top lane. The only mistake was, of course, when he tried to go on towards Braum, but only because he had been confident with the last one that worked out. So yeah, certainly practice is paying off. The man has been incredibly impactful.
Now SinoDragons take away both the mid and top lane inhibitors. Bottom lane still has that pesky tower around it, but now look the engage coming in from GALA, the ultimate as well. They've gotten the better side of the fight so far. We'll be able to take away Meiko. GALA's still alive in the backline, and Twila chasing in SinoDragons. It's a 5 versus 4, but how far will they take it? Looks like they just want to back off at this point and focus down towards the bottom lane because that wave is right there.
And that's got to hurt for EDG because that was their way in. The engage came through, Cataclysm and all, but GALA using his stopwatch, just burning out all that time. Cassiopeia following up too. How do they sword the fight?
Oh my god, the flash engage from Twila, getting the root onto 3. Won't be enough, but they'll be able to take out Haro on the back foot. They've taken down the inhibitor tower as well. The inhibitor itself getting low. Xiaopeng, GA's been popped. The calling for iBoy doing a lot of damage, but Ray gets taken out. The hyper carry will carry no longer. And SinoDragons 3 versus 2. Scout and iBoy looks like their damage is enough to scare off SinoDragons. Changhong is in so much trouble. No way he survives that one. His Scout takes him down, but that is triple inhibitors missing from EDG.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice being able to see iBoy and Scout flex when they get the opportunity, but those opportunities are thin, far in between. You're right. Triple inhibitor now for SinoDragons. They've been using the Baron buff as well as they possibly can. At times trying to challenge EDG. This was another good chance for Twila to find himself right in there. So great to see Ray protect Corki there. But it's just unfortunate because even with the protection, he's not going to be in for the fight for a little while longer. And you start to see EDG try and challenge the members there because a lot of the damage was split up from SinoDragons. Some of the members were taking down the inhibitor itself. Other members were actually committing to the fight. So Guardian Angel down from SinoDragons in the mid lane challenge on towards iBoy. And of course Changhong dying immediately afterwards. That's a setback, but in the overall picture, SinoDragons get a lot out of it.
Which is especially impressive considering what EDG have at their disposal. They now have a 5-item Kale sitting there with so much damage in the fight. We saw that. The almost full item iBoy Scout as well. Triple AD carry with massive late game potential. Weren't able to take the fight.
Exactly. And at this point now, SinoDragons can just ride the wave. They got all 3 waves working for them. And the Baron buff coming at a perfect time. It would be a massive mess up if they can't make best out of this one. So easy. Baron buff, Elder Dragon. I think if EDG want to find a way back, pushing mid hard now and trying to split up the objectives is their best bet.
They got to be able to take away that Elder. GALA going in for the assassination. Not going to be able to find it. And going golden. Scout still alive. Might be able to be taken out. No, the Maul of Malmortius plus the ultimate from Kale going to save him for the time being. But Meiko has to flash away. Looks like the engage. The shutdown onto Corki. But look at the backline. Ray still alive. Pumping out the damage. This AD carry top laner doing so much at EDG. They turn the fight. But Changhong's here to stop it. iBoy gets taken down. GALA and Changhong still alive. They got the shutdown. Triple inhibitor still missing, and a wave pouring in from the bottom lane. This could be the game.
Yeah, the carries are still alive, and it's just lonely little Meiko there that can try and stop them. I love the fact that SinoDragon saw the opportunity and just went for it.
The ultimate there onto Meiko. Doesn't need the stun, just gets the slow and the kill. And SinoDragons, our newest team in the LPL, take down EDG in game number 1.
Now, get a look at that. SinoDragons are fast, furious, saw opportunities and took it. That last play on towards Scout, to me, is the real iconic point for SinoDragons, because it really got to show the fact that they could have just played it slow and lame. If they were worried about anything, then they could have actually just made it so they rode like their side waves, their mid lane wave, went towards Baron buff, Elder Dragon, but they weren't a scared team. They saw an opportunity, GALA took advantage of it, and they doubled down around it. This is a team that you have to be afraid of in EDG, losing in this fashion. Now they got to look back at their draft, say, okay, we can't just hand lanes away to Changhong and Twila. That's why it's so hard drafting into them, because you don't know what their preferences are. Their preferences towards tanks in the top lane, scaling carries in the mid lane, because all of the information told you that's what they were going to play, but they changed everything on a dime for game 1.
And honestly, I think the gold graph tells an interesting story as well, because you look at it and you see just mountain after mountain, but it gets higher every time. And that's what you should focus on. Not that they were losing the lead, but that they were able to recover it. And for an inexperienced team who lost to EDG in the shortest game of the year, 19 minutes and 45 seconds, for them to turn around their split so successfully and take EDG to this level of a close game is just so absolutely impressive.
I mean, remember, that was really early on in the split. So for me, SinoDragon's coming across, and they've made these moments before. The one against TOP, which is the most notable one for me, being able to shut down Knight off of just a cooperative effort. And then on what we got to see versus RNG, a lot of it is essentially the confidence that they have and exude on towards their carries. A lot of us, when we look towards GALA, we say, well, is he the top 3 AD carry in the league? Certainly not, right? We have a lot of names like technically Mystic. Remember, a lot of us are saying iBoy, Mystic, Uzi, Jackie-Love, but Mystic is gone, not on the team performance, but his own personal performance, that he was able to, of course, lose out his early laning phase versus Imp. So a lot of the information that you're coming into the series, into the playoffs, you gotta push it to the side, right? It's who plays well in the day, and on top of that, GALA has showcased in his most recent games when they went up against SinoDragons that he is a star. So I'm loving what I see out of GALA's current performance, and I think the strategy is something that you can't really plan for if you're EDG. So they don't even have a say in this. Remember, choice of side selection is there for SinoDragons. They can go into the next game, say blue side, and play the same game, the charade on the top side of the map. They just have to be ready for it.
And for EDG coming into this, we all predicted that they're going to win it. Does this shake your idea of how successful they'll be at this point? Because for me, EDG looked okay, but I think Ray losing so heavily in the top lane was a really bad look for them, one that they weren't really able to recover after the level 1 especially.
Yes, so you're right. The level 1 was important, right? Not only did we not expect the Haro was going to be coming in, but we didn't expect the smart level 1 from SinoDragons, the draft that they had there giving Cassiopeia up to the top lane. So I don't know what my prediction is. I'm not going to flip-flop here in game 1, but I would love to see what happens here from game 2 for SinoDragons.
Well, hopefully SinoDragons are able to keep up their success. We're going to find out if they could start leading into the biggest upset this split as we get into game number 2 in just a few minutes.